of the world's most influential people. Our next guest was on last year's list and is joining us from London, England, Emilia Clarke. She'll be interviewed by Time's Reza Bruner.
Hi, I'm Reza Bruner, and I'm joined today by actor Emilia Clarke, who was also a 2019 Time 100 honoree. Welcome to Talks.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I must admit, when you guys gave me that incredible honour, I was completely flabbergasted and felt when I was at the ceremony, I was like, I'm in the wrong room. I snuck in somehow. So thank you so much.
Oh, that's so amazing to hear. And it's wonderful to be able to have this conversation with you as part of our week of celebrating the new list and everyone who's joined the community. So as we mentioned, you joined Time 100 last year, and I was rereading the tribute that Emma Thompson wrote for you for the magazine. And in it, she has this line. She said, "You have the courage of a small lion, the stamina of a Welsh pit pony, and the soul of a clown." So it's been over a year since she wrote that. Life has changed in so many ways. But I have to ask, how have those qualities, stamina, humor, helped you get through the past year and change?
Yeah, well, I must say that the stamina and the courage have been fighting strong. The clown has been dormant. I can't tell a lie. The clown took some time out for a minute, and then I've been reading all these brilliant articles of all these wonderful people who were trying to make humour in lockdown and silly faces on fruit and kind of all that kind of stuff. And yeah, myself and my small dog Ted have been trying to bring the humour, but largely speaking, it's just been a lot of stamina, a lot of courage, which I feel like is probably a temperature of the globe right now, is everyone's doing that. I think we could probably all do with just a slice of some clowning.
Yeah, seriously. Yeah. So you have also been through some incredibly difficult health challenges over the past decade, starting in, I think it's 2011, when you had a series of brain aneurysms. And then you launched the organization Same You, which helps sufferers of brain injury in their recovery. So how did your experience shape the work that you're doing now to help other people with similar struggles?
Right. Well, I mean, essentially what I found through my experiences with brain injury was that if you're lucky enough to survive the life-saving surgery, which obviously I was both times, if you're lucky enough to have that, the thing that doesn't get spoken about and the thing that gets ignored most is the recovery afterwards. So that's what SameU's core founding principle is. It's for brain injury recovery, because it's there where people get lost, and it's there where you're actually embarking on the hardest part of your journey, and at the point when you feel the most physically and emotionally not able to deal with it. So Same You, that's what our principle is, and that's what our guiding light is. And so we've been doing some really interesting work during COVID, during the lockdown, because what we knew to be the case was that because of all of the incoming patients who have COVID needing all the attention of our incredible medical services, people with brain injuries were leaving hospital earlier than they would have done in a normal environment, and so therefore their recovery needed to begin earlier. With fewer people, with a global pandemic, my heart was bleeding for all the people who didn't get what I was able to get. And so what we managed to do with UCL in London was start a virtual clinic, so that people could have the recovery that they needed from their own homes virtually. Nothing will ever or should ever replace human contact and human recovery, because that's where it really works. But the thing that we've done virtually is there was a clinic that was called Enroll, and the feedback has been incredible. So you have you've left hospital and you have all of the people that are assigned, all of the doctors and nurses and therapists that are assigned to you for your recovery process. And because it's all online, you can dedicate a huge amount of one-on-one care to those people throughout their recovery in really innovative brilliant ways. Like my favorite one was there's this incredible therapist there who's part of the upper limb rehabilitation. So if you've experienced a brain injury and you have any kind of paralysis, upper limb is an entire section of work that needs a lot of attention. And he has this thing where when, let's say, the exercise is to move your arm along like this, and there's a very specific line that it should be on that is what your brain is telling your arm to do. And every time you're doing it, your favorite song is playing. And then as soon as you do, it slightly starts to dip, the song stops. So when your favorite song is playing, you're filled with all the endorphins of like, I'm nailing it, I'm doing so well, my favorite song's playing, and then it stops and you're like, no, wait, I've got to make that song come back on again, I've got to do it. So there's been some really fun, incredible ways that that virtually we've been able to hopefully make people not feel as alone as they would do normally. Because if you can imagine, we've all been feeling desperate and alone and frightened and scared and everything else that goes along with being in lockdown and experiencing a global pandemic. But having a brain injury, you already feel those things. Put a global pandemic on top of that, and that's compounded to such an extent. So we put a lot of time, energy, and care into creating that, and we're now just trying to see ways that we can actually make that carry on as a kind of, because rehabilitation is incredibly unavailable everywhere. Recovery is something that is such a white space. People aren't aware of it, and the bulk of living with a brain injury is understanding and dealing with your own recovery. And so it's been, COVID has paradoxically been quite an incredible moment for us to really assess that properly and see how are the ways when in a global pandemic that we can really reach out and make people not feel alone.
Yeah, it's really interesting how those virtual connections, although not the same as being in person, can lead to some innovative new ways to connect and to hopefully improve and change treatment. So it's very, very cool to hear about. Another thing that I know is close to your heart is medical care and medical workers and nurses in specific. And the Time 100 list this year actually includes more nurses and doctors than ever before to reflect these times. So one question I have is, what should the public know about the best ways to support and honor the work of essential healthcare workers?
Well, I mean, what each country has been doing in their own ways has been incredible. Just showing your support and thanks in the ways that you can. I mean, in England we have the glorious, the wonderful, the life-saving NHS. And that's always something that I think every Brit is worried will go, possibly if someone in government decides that it's not needed. It is. I believe in free healthcare for all, everywhere. I believe that with my soul, because I am lucky enough, fortunate enough to be born into a country where I get free healthcare, and it's something I've never ever taken for granted, and you never can. Well, I'm ambassador for the Royal College of Nursing and also for Nursing Now. So there's a lot of things that you can do to support those unions that support them. Which I think is really incredibly valid. Supporting the NHS, knowing where it might, because it's so specific to each country. It's so specific to each healthcare system that you have. There are individual ways in which you can support them there, but finding out what the unions are and supporting those unions is really important. And then being able to, in England we have NHS charities, so that is a fund that you can donate to. My goodness, giving them respect, shout out, care, love, being as generous of spirit as you can be when being in a hospital and being around them, and letting them know how much we care and how much we need them. And so individually supporting people in the countries that they're in, I think is sort of it. And finding your local area, your local hospital, the charity that's associated with that. Every hospital will have a charity that's attached to it, and you can donate to them, and you can support them, and you can volunteer, and you can make them feel wonderful in every way that you can.
So, what lessons do you think you learned from your own experiences going through the health system that have helped you deal in terms of just like mentally with everything going on right now and the pandemic and surviving all of the changes and upheavals?
Heavens, yes. Well, I mean, there's a couple of medical related experiences that I've had in my life that have given me a possibly an armor of sorts when approaching a global pandemic. um, uh, the thing we're not talking about is death. That's it. And so when you personally come very close to dying, which I did twice, it brings into light a conversation that you have with yourself that goes to the tune of appreciation for what you do have. Thanks for the people in your life that are here. Losing my dad actually was probably the most profound thing that has ever happened to me. And understanding that and wrapping your head around it has counterintuitively opened my mind in so many ways, in a way that kind of, when you truly understand and feel grief, which is what we're all experiencing right now in a global pandemic, we're all experiencing a collective grief, because grief can come in many different forms. It isn't necessarily the death of a human, the death of someone you love. It can be the death of a life that you thought you had forever. And I think that understanding that grief just inherently makes you empathetic to others. When you truly feel something, I hate to use the word, but suffering on some level, and it's different for everyone, and my suffering is nothing compared to the vast majority of the world. But for me at that time, losing the person that was most important to me in the world, you have an innate greater understanding of the fragility of life, and so therefore taking stock of what you have and needing less. I think that what can come out of this is the knowledge that the stuff we place so much importance on, the materialistic things, take a backseat, and it's difficult to remember that when we are all doing go, gotta get the job, get the car, get the this, get the thing, get that, do this, get that, stay on track, let's keep going, whatever it is. And this has allowed us to slow down and kind of assess what really matters a little bit more. And I'm sounding like a greetings card in what I'm saying right now, and I don't mean to make this sound like a million things that you've heard before, but I just to take oneself seriously and to take moments to really listen to yourself and what it is that you need and what it is that you don't need, and allow some quiet and some reflection and some space. And I think that we all, when you feel bad, when you feel low, when you feel sad, when you feel scared, I think there's a societal kind of setup for you to then grab for more, to fix it, to put on top of it, to kind of cover it, when really what you need is to strip it back and to be introspective and reflective where possible. And that's the thing that's going to last you for the rest of your life, because that's the you you're living with till the day you die. And if you can on any level rely or trust that, then you're strong. You are strong. And I would hope that people don't need to suffer to feel that, to suffer to realize that. But it's definitely, through all my experiences, that's the biggest takeaway that I've learned is it's just this. That's what you have. So you kind of need to like it. You kind of need to be okay with it a little bit, just sort of not mind it as much. And then you'll seek less, I think.
That's a lot to take in.
Sorry, and I probably not made any sense at all.
No, I mean, it's so thoughtful, and your empathy comes through in so many of the different things you've been doing lately, whether it's the Same You program, but also just the way you interact, for instance, on social media, and your generosity of sharing things like poetry. And I noticed that you're doing a virtual table read of a play. Is on the
that was
books.
really good. Yeah,
Or,
I mean, that's my other massive thing that I love theatre and live performance so much. It's bizarre. I am a professional actress who's done 2 professional stage shows, one of which only managed 4 previews before a lockdown of a global pandemic happened, and yet I see myself as a theatre actor. Like, it's ridiculous. I go to the theatre as much as I possibly can, and I have been grieving and mourning missing that. I think we are, human beings only learned how to communicate through telling stories. Like, telling stories and listening to stories is the very bedrock of what makes us human. And without that live interaction you get, either be it being on stage and performing, or being in the audience and absorbing all of that, is it's my life is worse. It's worse off for it not being in it. So the theatres that are struggling to stay alive right now, I care about passionately, and thankfully there are many funds, at least in England, that and in the UK that are supporting theatres and are supporting freelance artists, because no one got any money anyway. Like, you working in the theatre as a freelancer, you're there's not a lot of money in it. You don't do it for that, and so then without any income at all, and in a global pandemic where other jobs are much harder to get, there's a lot of people going hungry right now. And so the table read for Private Lives, which is what I did, it was glorious, and all of the money raised for that goes to the RTF, which is the Royal Theatrical Fund, to help people in need right now.
Have you thought at all about what comes next, or things that you would like to see improve when life comes back online in theatre and film?
I'm looking forward to theatre. I'm looking forward to going to the theatre and watching something, or not going to the theatre, going to a bridge, or a shed, a grassy knoll, any kind of space where someone's going to tell me a story physically and I'm going to absorb it. Looking forward to that massively. Looking forward to everyone having a newfound appreciation, as long as it might last, for living and for interacting with one another. I know I miss that terribly. Heavens, looking forward to just to the knowledge that when the vaccine arrives, and what I'm saying when, and when such a time happens, that we get to look back and go, whoa, that was a huge thing that we all undertook together. Looking around and seeing people taking just a second more to go, lucky. I feel lucky. I feel really appreciative of this moment that I'm experiencing right now. Yeah, looking forward to getting back to work and not complaining about it. Looking forward to getting back to work and not going, so happy to be here, thanks so much for the job, when's lunch? Which is what most actors do. No, not most actors, I'm sorry, not all actors, but sometimes, you get, we all do in your jobs, you get, as rightly so, you get a little like, oh, okay, cool, we're going to do this again tomorrow, great. But so I think that the joy of that will last a bit longer. And just walking down the street, catching an eye with someone and being like, this is great.
Yeah, and maybe being able to see their face and not just the eyes above the mask.
Yes. I'm looking forward to the entire planet not being in fear.
Yeah.
Really looking forward to that happening.
Someday. So,
dancing, music. Yes. Sorry, now I'm done.
Yeah. So, a few weeks ago, I was reading that you had been discussing a Game of Thrones situation in which there was like a costuming double standard on set. And I know that equitability in acting environments has always been very important to you, and you've always been an advocate for making sure that you have a safe space and that other actors feel comfortable on sets. So I'm curious if there are ongoing double standards in the film industry that continue to bother you right now, and what you think audiences can do to support a more equal environment for actors.
Well, I think that since Time's Up, some stuff has happened. Stuff has happened. Stuff has changed. There's things like intimacy coaches, which are wonderful, and something that was very far away from my experience.
Yeah.
I think that the awareness and the noise that is made around who it is that we are watching, telling these, whose stories are we hearing, who is saying them, that's vital. Inclusivity of humanity, of everybody. There's not enough representation. I believe that standard is still there. I believe it's coming. But that's something I care about, and the way that audiences can support that is by watching things that are, and supporting them and giving them big box office numbers, because that's, as soon as it's a business, as soon as corporations were to see that actually people want to see not just white people, and want to hear stories that we've spent our lives not hearing. I want to hear those stories. The audience should want to hear those stories. It's a new goddamn story. We thought we ran out. We haven't. We just didn't ask a bunch of people. Yeah. And now I want to hear, and I want to watch them. And the way that audiences can support that is by watching them, is by seeking them out, by seeking out filmmakers, actors, studios, whoever it is, whatever group of humans it is that's making a story that is inclusive and representative of people and diverse. Then that equals you're giving them a big box office surge. It just means money. You give them money, they're going to then go, oh, it's financially viable for me to keep doing that, so we're going to keep doing that. Do you know what I mean? So, I think that there's a lot that we are responsible for in the film industry that we can keep doing and keep pushing, and people just shouldn't stop. We should just keep doing it.
Do you feel...
And the world will be richer for it. Damn it. That's the annoying thing. You see a story you've not heard before. You hear the point of view. You see a ritual or a culture that you don't know because you're not around it. It's you're learning. You're learning, you're experiencing a story that's beautiful and engrossing, and you're better for knowing that story. So however we can, encourage and support those people.
Yeah. Do you feel hopeful about progress that's been made in that direction? And more generally, what's giving you hope right now for the future?
I have described myself as a pathological optimist. So I've got a lot of hope. And hope can be a funny thing. It can really, it can hurt, hope. It can be really painful sometimes if you're filled with it and you wait a long time for that to sprout wings and fly. But I just keep saying the cheesiest things, but I believe in humanity. I believe in us. I believe in us as a global humanity. I think that it's chilling that it takes a global pandemic to make a bunch of us stop and assess and see what we have. But I'm hopeful that our healthcare workers and our frontline workers are going to be supported forever. I'm hopeful that in the wake of Black Lives Matter and everything that's happened around that we will continue to encourage, support, and see stories from everyone. And yeah, I'm hopeful that when we're not fighting a virus that doesn't care where you come from or how much money you have, that when we're not fighting that we get to go, oh, we're all on the same side. I got it. Let's make sure the Earth doesn't explode. So let's do. I mean, there's a lot of big things that we need to really be paying attention to. But I'm hopeful that the small things, that we're creating a generation and generations to come that are gonna be the flowering of that hope, that they're gonna hopefully help us.
Yeah. Emilia, thank you so much for that positivity, that optimism is so important right now. And thank you for joining us today for Time 100 Talks. And I hope you have a great week.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.